The strengths and tragedies of the character of Batman are rooted in trauma. For Bruce Wayne, his unwavering dedication to the war on crime is the result of the senseless murder of his parents right before his eyes as a child. In that moment, young Bruce died a spiritual death and was reborn a terrifying figure of Gothic justice. While it may have taken decades for the young man to be molded into the fearsome ideal of Batman, he was set on that path the moment Thomas and Martha Wayne were killed. In all his incarnations, Batman is defined by post-traumatic stress disorder, which the DSM-5 details as being caused by direct exposure to, witnessing, learning about a loved one experiencing, or having indirect exposure to death, threatened death, actual or threatened serious injury, or actual or threatened sexual violence. Those who suffer from PTSD commonly experience unwanted upsetting memories, nightmares, flashbacks, emotional distress after exposure to traumatic reminders, and/or physical reactivity after exposure to traumatic reminders. These experiences result in a person attempting to avoid related stimuli while being affected by worsening negative thoughts or feelings, and increases in irritability or aggression, risky or destructive behavior, hypervigilance, heightened startle reaction, difficulty concentrating, or difficulty sleeping. Clearly, Batman suffers from PTSD, although his comic book nature means that this very real condition is exaggerated and highlighted to varying degrees of reality and understanding, depending on the story and creative team. Sometimes the hero is a slave to it, dominated by his arrested development and forever set on a path towards self-destruction. In other stories, he has conquered his demons and consciously dedicated himself to a righteous life for the sake of others. Like Bruce, trauma affects us all, altering us in ways we sometimes may not fully know, although most often in far less extreme ways than those personified by the Dark Knight. When we become aware of these traumas, we are given the gift of self-awareness and the opportunity to work on our own mental health. It's rare to see Bruce Wayne given such an opportunity to face his demons and define himself through a moment of self-awareness. But that is the central idea of the 1993 animated feature film Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. Spinning out of the beloved Batman the Animated Series, Mask of the Phantasm sees Batman come face-to-face with the specter of the past when a woman named Andrea Beaumont re-enters his life, along with a shadowy vigilante that does not follow Batman's ethical code, the Phantasm.
Your angel of death awaits.
Flashbacks to Bruce's time before he took up the mantle of the Bat intersperse with his present-day mystery, adding emotion, pathos, and heartache to a dark and somber tale of violence and obsession. And into this volatile mix is thrown Mark Hamill's wonderfully, deliriously deadly version of the Joker. In the present, Bruce has been warring on criminals for years as the Dark Knight, but the return of Andrea causes him to question everything and remember a time before he was Batman. A time when he was a highly trained and deeply wounded young man still searching for his purpose. It was at this moment when he first met Andrea, voiced by Dana Delaney, who pulled him back from the edge and gave him the chance at a better life. We flash back and forth between past and present, reinforcing the idea of how our experiences and losses inform our present-day actions. As past tragedy begets greater tragedy in the present, we see Bruce and Andrea as two people haunted by everything they have lost and forced to decide how they will let that define them today. Because Mask of the Phantasm takes place in the world of the animated series, it contains all of the show's trademark Art Deco noir style, extremely talented voice cast, with Kevin Conroy's Batman a standout as usual, an unshakable grasp of what makes the Dark Knight such a compelling character. Except it's recast in the form of widescreen operatic tragedy, which takes the show's strengths and hammers them home even harder. While aimed at all ages, Mask of the Phantasm is more than willing to go dark, with its darker elements seen in score, visual aesthetics, and narrative. Both the overall look and the many plot developments take on darker tones than the animated series, which already embraced many noir elements.
Sal Valestro, your angel of death awaits.
Gotham is frequently robed in darkness, which only serves to highlight the bright scenery present in Bruce's flashbacks. These are darker times indeed. A quick warning, this discussion of Mask of the Phantasm will contain spoilers, including revealing the identity of the titular mysterious antagonist. But I wouldn't worry too much about it. This film is 25 years old and was spoiled by a toy before it even came out. While a film tracing the origins of Batman has been done numerous times, including its detailed exploration in Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins and its slow reveal in Tim Burton's Batman, Mask of the Phantasm sidesteps the typical origin story by approaching the tragic nature of its central character through a different lens. This is a Batman whose PTSD is already informing his life choices, but is still grappling with his decision. Rather than attempt to cope in a healthy manner, Bruce has let the darkness consume him. When the unexpected love and grace given by Andrea comes into his life, he is caught completely off guard, suddenly questioning the life course that he set for himself decades ago.
It's gotta be one or the other. I can't have it both ways.
While there have been people who had shown compassion and care to Bruce since the trauma of his parents' murder, including his dutiful, if not exactly emotionally present butler Alfred, we can sense that no one has truly understood the man and worked past his defenses like Andrea. Their first chance meeting happens in a graveyard, which is no coincidence within the larger themes of this film. Bruce, visiting the grave of his parents to pay his respects and solidify his commitment to vigilante justice, stumbles upon Andrea when he hears her speaking nearby. She's talking to her mother's grave, not in the solemn and sorrowful tone done by Bruce, but in a sweet and conversational manner.
You know, Wayne Enterprises? I've seen him on campus. Very moody. Cute, though.
This is a woman who has accepted the death of her mother, but who has let the memory of her parent be a source of love and happiness in her life, not torture and guilt like our hero. Bruce is on the path towards self-destruction, while Andrea is on the path towards self-healing. It shouldn't be surprising that the two quickly fall in love, with Bruce's burden of vengeance causing outbursts of violence against criminals while his heart is softened by Andrea, who is dealing with her father's mafia involvement and criminal ties that she wants no part of. In the past, Andrea is the agent of change within Bruce's life, causing him to become aware of his trauma and questioning the decisions he has made before he can embark on a path from which there is no return. In one of the film's most emotionally raw scenes, we see Bruce weeping at his parents' grave, begging their forgiveness for his decision to forsake his mission before proposing to Andrea.
I know I made a promise, but I didn't see this coming. I didn't count on being happy. Please, tell me that it's okay.
These moments in the past play parallel to the present set superhero mystery, with Batman on the trail of the mysterious Phantasm, whose murders of mafia members cause the police to mistakenly hold the hero responsible. With the majority of the film set in the present, the past is given a lurking sense of dramatic irony and foreboding grief. We may not yet know what happened in the past to end their relationship and turn them into the people they became, but we know that Andrea and Bruce are doomed. That reveal, which comes at the beginning of the third act of the film, shows us that Andrea herself is the Phantasm, and her father, who is Batman's #1 suspect as the killer, was murdered by the Mafia and the man who would one day become the Joker. Belmont's murder is a horribly traumatic experience for Andrea and causes her to run away, abandoning Bruce and ending their engagement with no explanation. The loss of his one source of hope shut Bruce off from the healing he had found, and directly led to him adopting the mantle of Batman. It's a scene that is tragic rather than triumphant, as Bruce's formation as the hero of Gotham City is also the permanent death of his chance for a better life. We see the horror of it all in Alfred's reaction. This revelation contrasts the two lead characters in a stark new light. Bruce, the tortured vigilante who has now been molded by two profound losses in his life, has long found peace in his life as Batman, meting out justice but refusing to take a life. Andrea, on the other hand, was radically altered by the murder of her father. In that moment of trauma, she lost everything, including her hope for a happy life, and in turn became a killer seeking revenge on the mob that took that from her. But if you are thinking that Andrea should be seen as the villain of the film, a woman responsible for both Bruce's transformation into Batman and a remorseless killer, then you aren't seeing the often unbearable weight and inescapable damage of trauma. Andrea has not been turned into a cold, heartless villain, but rather a remorseful and tortured victim who has decided that the only option she has is to return the trauma she has suffered tenfold upon her perpetrators. These two have now had their trajectories swapped, and while Bruce may not entirely be moving towards self-healing, Andrea is most certainly barreling towards self-destruction, entombed in her PTSD and without anyone to help pull her out of it. In the present, it is now Bruce who gives Andrea the opportunity to face her trauma and reclaim her life. Prior to the Phantasm reveal, Bruce extends the chance for reconciliation with his former fiancée. After his revelation regarding her identity, he still rushes to help her against the onslaught of the Joker, not simply fighting for her life, but begging her to turn back from a dark future. But Andrea, surrounded by a raging inferno and with the Joker at her mercy, refuses the chance at healing, seeing herself as beyond repair. To Bruce, Andrea is dead, swallowed up in a massive explosion with Batman only surviving through sheer luck. Her final token, a necklace left in the Batcave, is a heart-wrenching reminder of the love they once shared and can never restore. And while we see that Andrea is in fact alive, leaving on a cruise ship to parts unknown, she is truly dead to everything good that was once in her life. For Andrea, the past can only bring sorrow, as her wholehearted rejection of healing in favor of revenge has caused her to be permanently defined by past trauma for the worse.
I'm sorry. Do you want to be alone?
I am.
In its closing moments, we see Bruce, reconfirmed in his identity as Batman, committed to the well-being of Gotham, a man still defined by the trauma in his past, but now in charge of his life. For Bruce, the love he once shared with Andrea may be colored through the lens of loss and tragedy, but clearly still touches the most human and tender parts of his heart. He now better understands himself, and his love for Andrea endures, becoming less of a tragic figure seen in many interpretations through his conscientious reaffirmation of his identity and ability to reach out past his trauma in an attempt to heal another person. The contrasting arcs of Bruce and Andrea are a reminder that we cannot change the past and are often not responsible for the tragedies that befall us in life, but we are responsible for how we process that loss and take responsibility for our lives in the present. Maybe there are some things that love cannot overcome, but the decision to face the past and reject trauma's defining grasp can start us down the path away from self-destruction and toward real healing.